When Nix moved into apartment 7B, everyone in the building noticed. How could they not? She was 7 feet tall, with skin that shimmered like moonlight on water, and her eyes, 3 of them, glowed a soft amber when she was thinking. She'd arrived on Earth 6 months ago as part of the Interstellar exchange program, and somehow she'd ended up living right next door to me. That I'm Jake, by the way, 28, software developer, and apparently the universe's chosen welcome committee for extraterrestrial neighbors. Our first real interaction happened on a rainy Tuesday. I heard a crash through the wall, followed by what sounded like frustrated chittering. Against my better judgment, I knocked on her door. Nix answered, looking frazzled. Her long, silver hair like tendrils floated around her head in agitation, and her fingers, 6 on each hand, were covered in some kind of blue goo. Problem? I asked. She gestured toward her kitchen, where a device that looked like a blender had sex with a spaceship lay in pieces on the counter. Nutrition synthesizer. Broken. Cannot eat Earth food raw. Digestive incompatibility. Want me to take a look? Her antennae perked up, a sign of hope, I'd learned. You possess mechanical aptitude? I fix computers for a living. How different can it be? Turns out very different. But after 2 hours of her patient explanation of crystalline circuits and quantum entangled processors, I managed to jury-rig a solution using parts from my old PlayStation and some copper wire. When the device hummed back to life, Nix made a sound like wind chimes in a storm. Pure joy, that's when it started. She stood very still, her 3 eyes focusing on me with uncomfortable intensity. Then she began to spin. Slowly at first, then faster. Her arms, which could extend much longer than they appeared, began waving in complex patterns. The tips of her fingers started glowing, leaving trails of bioluminescent light in the air. The sounds came next. A low, resonant hum that vibrated in my chest, punctuated by high-pitched squeaks that honestly sounded like a kazoo being played underwater. Mixed in were these deep whale-like calls that made my apartment windows rattle, that I tried so hard not to laugh. I really did. But when she accidentally knocked over a lamp with one of her extended appendages while still spinning, I lost it. I doubled over, tears streaming down my face, gasping for air. Nix stopped mid-spin, her antennae drooping in confusion. Her glow flickered uncertainly. She tilted her head at an angle that would have broken a human neck. Performance inadequate? She asked, her voice smalled. That's when I realized this wasn't a joke or some weird alien prank. This was her trying to say thank you. This elaborate, bizarre, utterly sincere ritual was her culture's way of expressing gratitude. I straightened up, wiping my eyes. No, Nix. It was perfect. Over the following weeks, Nix and I fell into an unexpected friendship. She'd knock on my door at odd hours. She only needed 3 hours of sleep per cycle, with questions about Earth customs, human behavior, or why we found certain things funny. In return, she taught me about her homeworld, Valoria, a planet where emotions were expressed through elaborate physical performances rather than facial expressions. On Valoria, she explained one evening as we sat on my couch sharing pizza, which she could eat if she processed it through her synthesizer first. Words are for facts. Movement is for feelings. Your species does opposite. Very confusing. So that spinning thing, gratitude spiral. Very basic. Children learn at 3 cycles old. She seemed embarrassed. I performed poorly. Extended appendages, too much. Pitch modulation incorrect, luminescence pattern asymmetrical. It was beautiful, I said honestly, just unexpected. She turned her 3 eyes on me, and I felt a strange flutter in my chest. Over the past month, I'd stopped seeing her as alien and started seeing her as Nix. The way her antennae twitched when she was amused, how she'd tilt her head when confused, the soft glow she emitted when she was happy. It had all become endearing. You are kind, Jake. Most humans avoid me, uncomfortable with difference. I shifted closer to her on the couch. Their loss. The air between us changed. Her skin began to shimmer with a soft rose gold color I hadn't seen before. This color, I asked, what does it mean? Warmth. Comfort. Connection. She paused, her tendrils floating gently. Attraction. My heart hammered. Attraction. Physical and emotional compatibility despite species difference. Unusual. The Institute warned this might happen. Interspecies bonds forming. They monitor such cases. Is that allowed? Not forbidden. Complicated. She moved closer, and I could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. Your species forms pair bonds. Mine as well, but processed different. Courtship on Valoria involves movement performances over many cycles. Must prove compatibility through synchronized motion. Like dancing? More complex. Dance is simplification, yes. She stood suddenly, her full height, making my living room feel small. I should go, feelings becoming intense. But I stood too, catching one of her hands. Her fingers were longer than mine, slightly cool, with a texture like smooth glass. What if I want intense? Her eyes widened and her glow brightened. Jake, you understand implications? Human-Valorian bonds have occurred. 17 cases documented, all successful, but require adaptation both sides. Physical intimacy, very different. Communication barriers significant. I'm willing to learn. My voice came out rougher than I intended. She made that wind chime sound again, but deeper, more resonant. Then I must perform proper courtship initiation. Not gratitude spiral. Different meaning entirely. I cleared the furniture in my living room, pushing the couch against the wall and rolling up the rug. Nyx stood in the center of the space, her antennae quivering with something between nervousness and excitement. Courtship performance, more intimate than gratitude, she explained. I show you my inner patterns. Emotional vulnerability. You watch and body responds or not. Involuntary human reactions will tell me compatibility. Like my heart rate, breathing. Yes, also pupil dilation, skin flush, pheromone release. I sense these things. Cannot hide attraction, either present or not. She was right to be nervous. I was terrified and exhilarated in equal measure. The performance began differently than her thank you spiral. This time, she moved with liquid grace, her body bending in ways that should have been impossible. Her skin began displaying patterns, swirls of color that flowed from her core outward, like watching emotions paint themselves across her body. The sounds were different too, not the comical kazoo whale combination, but something that resonated in my bones, a harmony that seemed to sync with my heartbeat, then deliberately shift it faster. Her movements became more intricate, and I realized she was telling a story with her body. I saw loneliness in the way she curled inward, isolation in her trembling tendrils, then hope, a brightening of her glow, a reaching outward. And when her eyes found mine, I saw desire, not just physical, though that was there too, but a longing for connection that transcended species. My body responded without conscious thought. My breathing deepened, my skin flushed warm, and I felt an ache in my chest that had nothing to do with physical attraction and everything to do with recognizing a kindred spirit. When she finished, she remained still, glowing brightly, vulnerable and exposed. Nyx, I breathe. That was... Your response positive, she said, and I heard relief in her voice. Heart rate elevated 32%. Skin temperature increased. Pupils dilated. Oxytocin release detected in sweat composition. Compatible. I crossed the distance between us. Very compatible. She reached out with those long fingers and touched my face, mapping my features with gentle curiosity. Human contact. I have studied but never experienced. Your skin warm. Soft. Fragile. You won't hurt me. No. Valorians have excellent control. Her thumb brushed my lower lip. Kiss. Human bonding behavior. May I learn? Instead of answering, I closed the distance between us. Her lips were cooler than mine, smoother, and they tasted faintly of ozone and something sweet I couldn't identify. The kiss was awkward at first. She didn't quite understand the mechanics, but when she relaxed into it, something clicked. Her tendrils wrapped gently around my shoulders, Her extra fingers cradled my head, and the kiss deepened. When we finally broke apart, both of us were glowing, her literally, me with the flush of arousal spreading down my neck. Bedroom? I asked roughly. Education required first, she said, but her eyes were bright with desire. Human Valorian physical intimacy must be approached carefully. My body different. Some parts similar function, different structure. Communication essential. We sat on the couch close enough that our legs touched, and she explained. Her species had evolved from different origins, but had arrived at surprisingly compatible solutions for reproduction and pleasure. The mechanics weren't identical, but the intentions were the same. We can make this work, I said, my hand finding hers. Yes, but slowly, learning together. She leaned against me, her head on my shoulder, tendrils draping across my chest. This moment, this enough. Intimacy is more than physical joining. We stayed like that for a long time, just existing together, learning the shape of each other in this new context. And when she eventually left for her own apartment, the goodnight kiss we shared promised more to come. The next morning, I woke to urgent knocking. I stumbled to the door in my boxers and t-shirt, squinting against the morning light. Nix stood there, her colors muted, antennae drooping. Problem. Serious. I ushered her inside. What's wrong? Institute contacted me. Someone reported my courtship display. Light patterns visible through windows. Sound carried to other apartments. Humans complained. Said was disturbing, inappropriate. Institute sending inspector. If found in violation of cultural exchange protocols, I returned to Valoria. My heart sank. They can't do that. You haven't done anything wrong. Protocol states must maintain discreet presence, not draw attention, not disturb human neighbors, not form inappropriate attachments that might compromise mission objectivity. She looked at me with all three eyes, and I saw fear there. Our connection, Jake, might be considered violation. That's bullshit. You're allowed to have relationships. With humans, complicated, 17 documented cases, all required extensive evaluation. Process takes months. During evaluation, parties kept separate, cannot see each other until approval granted or denied. I pulled her close, feeling her cool skin against mine. Then we fight it. There has to be a way. She made a sound like breaking glass, Valorian crying. I'd learned. Cannot ask you risk your standing with authorities. This my problem. It's our problem. I tilted her chin up. You're not facing this alone. The inspector arrived 3 days later. Dr. Patricia Hoffman, a severe woman in her 50s with a clipboard and a distinct lack of humor. She interviewed neighbors, examined Nix's apartment, and questioned us separately. When she interviewed me, her disapproval was palpable. Mr. Chun, Jake is fine. Mr. Chun, she continued pointedly, do you understand the complications inherent in human-alien relationships? The physiological differences alone present significant challenges. Then there are cultural barriers, lifespan disparities, potential offspring complications. Wait, offspring. 3 of the 17 documented cases produced viable hybrid children. The medical and social implications are still being studied. This isn't a casual matter. I leaned forward. I'm not treating it casually. I care about Nix. Genuinely. Whatever complications come, we'll handle them together. Dr. Hoffman's expression softened slightly. That's what they all say. But when reality sets in, when you realize she'll outlive you by centuries, when communication breaks down, when the novelty wears off, many humans retreat, and the aliens are left devastated. I've seen it. And the successful ones are exceptional, require extraordinary commitment, patience, and adaptability from both parties. She made note. I'll be honest, Mr. Chun, your case is stronger than most. Nix's emotional patterns show genuine attachment, not simple curiosity. Your physiological responses indicate authentic connection. But that doesn't mean I can simply approve this. My stomach dropped. What happens now? Nix returns to Institute housing. You both undergo 6 weeks of counseling, separate and together. compatibility assessments, education on challenges ahead. If, after that, you're both still committed, we discuss long-term arrangements. 6 weeks without seeing her? 2 weeks, she conceded. Then supervised visits. We're not cruel, Mr. Chen. We're cautious. These relationships can be beautiful, but they can also cause immense harm if entered into naively. When Nix came to say goodbye, she brought something with her, a small crystal that pulsed with soft light. Communication device, she explained. Hold when thinking of me. I feel it. Not words, but emotions. Connection across distance. I took it, feeling its warmth. 2 weeks. 14 cycles. Then I see you again. She performed a small spiral, gratitude, affection, hope. Worth waiting for, Jake. You worth waiting for. Our goodbye kiss lasted until Dr. Hoffman cleared her throat pointedly. The 2 weeks felt like months. The crystal pulsed regularly, sometimes warm with contentment, sometimes cool with loneliness. I held it constantly, sending back what I hoped were comprehensible emotions. The counseling was intense. Sessions with a specialist in interspecies relationships, learning about Valorian culture in depth, understanding the physical realities of our differences. Some sessions left me hopeful. Others terrified me with the complexity we were undertaking. But every doubt evaporated when I finally saw Nix again. The supervised visit took place in a neutral meeting room at the Institute, Dr. Hoffman watching from behind a one-way mirror. The moment Nix entered, her colors exploded into brilliant patterns I'd never seen before. Jake. My name sounded like music in her voice. We embraced, and I didn't care that we were being watched. She was real and solid, and here, I learned something, I said against her shoulder. A surprise for you. Surprise? I stepped back and began move. It was clumsy, amateur, and probably violated every rule of Valorian dance. But I'd spent 2 weeks studying videos, consulting with the Institute's cultural advisors, and practicing in my apartment until my neighbors complained about the noise. I performed a gratitude spiral. It wasn't graceful. My human body couldn't bend the way hers did, couldn't extend limbs or glow with bioluminescence. But I spun, I waved my arms in patterns I'd memorized, and I hummed, terribly off-key, the harmonic sequence that meant thank you for existing in my life. When I finished dizzy and probably ridiculous-looking, Nix stood frozen. Then she made that wind chime sound, but it broke in the middle, and I realized she was crying. You learned my language, she whispered, the language of my body. I'm a terrible student, but I'll keep practicing. She closed the distance between us, and this kiss was different from all the others, deeper, more certain, weighted with commitment. When we broke apart, Dr. Hoffman was actually smiling behind the glass. The counseling continued, but the tone shifted. We were no longer being discouraged, but educated, learning about each other's needs, establishing communication protocols, planning for a future that would require constant adaptation. 6 weeks after Nix was taken away, we received approval. She moved back into 7B, and that first night, she knocked on my door at midnight. Jake, she said when I answered, I believe we were interrupted before. Learning together? Slowly? I pulled her inside, my heart racing. Slowly. Together. What followed was discovery. Tender, awkward, beautiful discovery. Learning where she liked to be touched, what sounds meant pleasure versus discomfort. Teaching her human responses, adapting to Valorian needs. There was laughter when things didn't work quite right, patience when we needed to stop and recalibrate. But there was also intense, surprising pleasure. The ways our differences complemented each other. How her cool skin felt against my warmth. The patterns her bioluminescence made when she was aroused. The harmonics she hummed that resonated through both our bodies. Afterwards, lying tangled together in sheets and tendrils, she traced patterns on my chest. On Valoria, after physical bonding, partners perform unity spiral. Together, synchronized movement to show two, becoming one. Would you learn with me? I'd be honored. We practiced the unity spiral for weeks. It became our private language, a way to celebrate good news, work through conflicts, simply express love on days when human and Valorian words failed us both. 6 months later, when the other tenants complained about the noise again, we performed the Unity Spiral in the courtyard, publicly, defiantly. And this time, instead of complaints, we got applause. Because they finally saw what I'd known since that first ridiculous gratitude spiral. Different doesn't mean wrong. It just means learning a new language. And sometimes the most beautiful language is one you create together. Epilogue. A year later, Dr. Hoffman visited to check on us. She found us teaching other human Valorian couples the Unity Spiral we'd perfected, leading workshops on interspecies communication. Still think I'm exceptional? I asked her. She smiled, a real smile this time. No, Mr. Chun. I think you're exactly what this program needs. Someone willing to look ridiculous, make mistakes, and keep trying anyway. Nyx wrapped her tendrils around my shoulders. Jake is compatible. Very compatible. And as we performed our spiral, still imperfect, still uniquely ours, I realized she was right. We were compatible not despite our differences, but because we'd learned to make those differences into something beautiful. Sometimes thank you is just the beginning.